You've been surviving, and I really want you to have the feeling that you can start living again. And I want to show you how. And initially, you might think it's too simple to be the way forward. But I hope that by the end of this video, you can truly see how simple it may be for you to take a hold of your life again after breast cancer. So let's get into it. When did you last feel truly alive? Not just okay, not just getting through the day, truly fully alive, with energy, with something to look forward to, with that feeling of being completely in your own life. If you're watching this, you've probably been through breast cancer treatment, and that feeling of being truly alive, it wasn't something that quietly slipped away, it was taken from you. Breast cancer took it, treatment took it. The shock, the fear, the exhaustion, the sort of handing over your health really to the medical professionals, which you had to do at the time, all of it drained you. And right now, you might be wondering whether you will ever get your energy and life back, whether it is even possible, whether maybe it's just not for you anymore. I want to talk to you about exactly that today because I believe and I know from my experience that it doesn't have to feel this way. And by the end of this video, I hope you will believe that too. Maybe you finished treatment recently, maybe it was a while ago. Either way, you find yourself in a strange place because on paper it's over, you've done it, and yet you don't feel like you've done it, do you? You feel exhausted. You feel like you can barely face the day. You'd rather hide on the sofa, pull the covers up, not have to think about any of it. And there's this constant background noise of worry. What if it comes back? What if I never feel like myself again? What if this is just how things are now? If any of that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. You're exactly in the right place. I know this because I've been there myself. And after I finished treatment, I was determined to do everything right for my health. I made lists, long, ambitious lists of all the things I should be doing every day to keep myself well. I stuck posters on the wall. I tried to go vegan overnight. I turned my whole life into a kind of regime. I mean, really barely noticing it myself to start with. And do you know what actually happened? I felt worse. Not because the things on my list were wrong, but because trying to change absolutely everything all at once when you're already depleted and traumatized is simply too much. I was so exhausted by my own expectations of myself that I felt low and I felt like I was failing again. And then something shifted. When I stopped trying to do it all and started with just one small thing, that's when everything began to change. Why did I start with only doing one small thing? Because I simply didn't have more energy at the time. But it created the biggest shift ever. I was able to rebuild my life step by step, and I rediscovered my energy. I rediscovered my joy, and I just absolutely knew this was the way to go. I want to take a moment to talk about something that I think so many women feel after treatment, but very few people actually name loud, and that is the sense of being completely powerless, of feeling like life is happening to you rather than being lived by you. Like everything is out of your control, and there's very little you can do about any of it. That feeling has a name. It's called the victim mindset. And before you hear those words and feel a flicker of resistance, please stay with me because this is not about blame, it's not about criticism, and it is absolutely not about you being weak or negative or somehow doing recovery wrong. I want to say something that I think is really important, and I want you to really hear it. Feeling like a victim right now is completely normal. It's not a character flaw. It is not weakness. It is what happens when something enormous and frightening happens to your body without your permission. Nobody who's diagnosed with breast cancer has worked towards it consciously. Nobody has run down their health on purpose to get here. This happened to you, and it often happens to women who were fully in the middle of life, busy, active, doing everything, and with absolutely no idea that this was creeping up on them. And when it hits, you do the only thing you can do. You hand yourself over to the medical system because you're frightened and you want to do everything right. You trust the doctors, you go through treatment, and you focus all of your energy on getting through it, which is exactly what we would all do. But when treatment ends, you're left completely traumatized. Your body feels like it has failed you. You don't trust it anymore. And of course, that makes you feel out of control because, in so many ways, you have been out of control. That feeling makes complete sense. The important thing to understand is this: feeling like a victim is where you are right now. It is not where you have to stay. I know that right now in this moment it might feel completely hopeless, like there's nothing you can do, like you're just going to feel like this forever. And maybe you've heard about all these things you're supposed to be doing: the diets, the lifestyle changes, the supplements, the exercise routines, and the whole thing that just feels completely overwhelming. So let me say something that might sound almost too simple, but I promise you it is true. It is 100% within your power to feel better. You can overcome the fear of recurrence. You can overcome the constant worry. You can get your energy back. You can feel like yourself again. And you can do it without having to overhaul your entire life overnight. I'm going to show you how, which will link back to my little story that I told you in the beginning. So I want to link what I'm going to say to you to nutrition because it is the first question almost every woman asks after treatment. What should I eat now and what shouldn't I eat? And I completely understand why. Food feels like something you can control. It feels like an action you can take. And the instinct to nourish yourself is a really good one. So it is a good place to start. But the problem is the internet is full of conflicting and overwhelming advice, and a lot of it leads women towards thinking they need to make enormous radical changes. Go fully vegan, for example, cut out everything, follow a very strict protocol. And by the way, I'm not saying that going vegan is wrong, but I'm just taking veganism as an example of overhauling a complete lifestyle, if you've never been vegan before, for example. And when you're already exhausted and depleted, even thinking about that level of change, like going vegan, could be completely draining. Doesn't mean it's wrong. But here is what the science actually says. And this is the part that surprises most women when they first hear it and almost sounds too simple and too good to be true. Even small, very few small changes to your nutrition can have a significant and meaningful positive impact on your long term health and on your recurrence risk. Of course, this doesn't only apply to nutrition, but we are going to stick to nutrition because it often is our first question after treatment. Your body is ready to soak up nourishment. Small, consistent changes to what you eat, adding more vegetables, for example, to one meal a day, adding more healthy protein, eating a proper, nourishing breakfast. These small things genuinely move the needle. And your gut microbiome, for example, can start to shift and improve much more quickly than most people realize with small changes. Small is not second best, small is science backed. So I want to talk about the opposite to small change, which we could call extreme approaches, full lifestyle overhauls, complete resets. They so often backfire, and I'm not saying this to put anyone off making changes. Changes are wonderful, but the approach to these changes matters enormously. When you're exhausted and traumatized and you try to change absolutely everything at once, one of two things happen. Either the task feels so enormous that you don't even begin, or you begin, it is incredibly hard, you feel overwhelmed and frustrated, and you give up. And when you give up, you don't just go back to where you were, you feel worse than when you first started. Because now there's a layer of shame on top of everything else, a voice that may say to you, inside you, I couldn't even do that. This proves that it really is hopeless. This proves that I really am out of control. But here is what I want you to hear. It was never you, it was the approach. You tried to do too much too fast in a moment when your body and your mind needed gentleness. That is not failure, that is just the wrong tool for where you are right now. So, what does the alternative look like? The small step approach. And what do small steps actually mean in practice? So let's go back to nutrition in terms of small steps. It might mean starting with a nourishing breakfast in the day. Something simple, something high in protein and nutrients, something that genuinely feeds your body rather than just filling it. That's it, just that one breakfast. Or it might mean making yourself one health bringing smoothie a day. I will share with you at the end my breakfast recipe guide and my smoothie guide so that you have some ideas of where you can start. And you don't need to be a chef, you don't need to spend hours in the kitchen. Just one smoothie or one nourishing breakfast. And here's why small steps work when big ones don't. When you do something small for yourself and you feel a little bit better for it, you think to yourself, I can do that again tomorrow. That's a thought you might not have had in a very long time. I can do that. I want to do that. And that feeling, that spark of capability and motivation is the beginning of everything. Whereas if you try to change everything at once, the whole thing feels so overwhelming that you're very likely to give up within days, as we said earlier. And in this case, we would be back to the cycle of hopelessness. So, this concept of small steps is also known as habit stacking. And once you understand it, it changes everything. Stacking works like this: you build one small habit, like your breakfast or your daily smoothie, whatever feels manageable to you right now. And after a week of doing that, something interesting happens. You do feel a little better. You feel a little more capable. As we said, you feel like you want to do more. You want to do this again. And you are already now naturally primed and ready to add the next small steps because you're ready, you want to. And not because someone has told you that you should, but because you want to. You feel motivated. You already have proven to yourself that you can. One step creates the foundation for the next one. And in this way, completely naturally, without overwhelm, without forcing yourself into anything that doesn't feel right, you build a much healthier life, step by step, your way. This is how you go from surviving to living, not in one giant leap, in small, steady, meaningful steps that actually last. And I want to paint you a picture of what it actually feels like to feel alive again. Because I think sometimes we need to be reminded that it's real, that it's possible, and that it's available to you. It feels like energy returning, not the forced caffeinated kind, the real kind, like a light coming on from deep inside that you haven't felt for a long time. It feels like actually enjoying things again. Instead of wanting to just hide on the sofa, you feel like you want to go out. It doesn't feel like a duty, like a must do. You actually look forward to seeing friends or doing an activity. You're not dreading the day ahead, but you feel genuinely curious about it. It feels like stepping outside on a spring morning and breathing it in and feeling a burst of joy, real joy that you simply haven't had the energy to feel for so long. feels like being in your own life again. You are leading your life, literally, not watching it from the sofa and wishing you could, not enduring it, actually being in it. That is what is waiting for you. It is not a fantasy. It's not for other people. It's something you can build one small step at a time. So here is where I want to leave you today. You have been surviving and you have done that incredibly well. Surviving took everything you had and you did it. But surviving was never meant to be the end of the story. That's what I believe. You don't have to stay in this exhausted, frightened place. You don't have to overhaul everything to move forward, and you don't have to do it alone. If you want to take your very first step this week, I've put together the breakfast recipe guide that's linked here and the smoothie recipe guide that's linked here. It's a great place to start because, as I said, our first question is often about nutrition and it can be a real needle mover because a good breakfast or good smoothie can give you that real bit of energy to start with. But of course, you may also start with your first small step elsewhere that feels more important for you. So, whatever it is, start simple. Start with this first step, not with extremes, not with overwhelm, just one good thing to start with, your first step, and that's it.